This is NDTV, and you're watching NDTV 24x7.
Hello and welcome. How has India dealt with an unprecedented period of uncertainty, insecurity, ill health and loss? As we learn to live with the damage caused by 2 years of a global pandemic, do Indians feel financially secure? Are we ready for whatever life will throw at us? Do we know the right financial instruments available for us to feel protected and secure? These are the questions we will find answers to on our show today. This is the India Protection Quotient 4.0 conducted by Max Life Insurance in partnership with Kantar. Before we get started with finding answers to these very critical questions, let us tell you very quickly what the India Protection Quotient or IPQ is all about. This is a measure that assesses the financial readiness and degree to which Indians feel protected from future uncertainties. And on our panel today we have Prashant Tripathi, the MD and CEO of Max Life Insurance, Soumya Mohanty, the MD and Chief Client Officer of Kantar Insight South Asia, actor Boman Irani, who is also the co-founder of Irani Movie Tone, and Sarabveer Singh, CEO at PolicyBazaar.com. Thanks so much all of you for being on the show, and congratulations Mr. Tripathi on launching yet another edition of Max Life Insurance India Protection Quotient 4.0. We see in this edition a jump in India's protection quotient by 3 points. How do we interpret this? Tell us what it means.
Thank you so much, Sonia. And the last few years have been quite different, quite tumultuous. The only thing which has remained constant is our steadfast endeavor to bring the India protection quotient year after year, which is a compass, which is a barometer for us to demonstrate where we are on the journey of feeling financially protected. So you're right, this year we did see an increase. There is an increase of 3 points versus last time. 47 has gone up to 50, which reflects that Indians are feeling more and more protected. But if we were to really break it down into the individual components, there are 3 components across which we measure India protection quotient. So the 3 scores actually roll up into IPQ. The first one is awareness, and we have seen a marginal increase in awareness. Of course, awareness has been growing over the years, but this year marginal increase. The second one is ownership, which means what level of ownership do people who have been surveyed have, and that level has remained flat at 78%. So there has been a big increase actually in the third index, which is called security index. So people are feeling more and more secured, and when I link it back to how or why it should happen, it is happening predominantly because coronavirus is broadly being seen as something of past. 79% people actually felt that with this level of vaccination, the possibility of having any major impact is quite limited, and people are feeling more and more secure, because of which we have seen the increase. And as a result of normalcy now prevailing, we have observed that the India protection quotient has gone up. So it is really a step in the right direction. Year on year we have seen increase. I personally feel very good about it, but it is a score of 50, and the possibility, ultimate possibility, is to take it to 100, which means the journey is quite long and we can't be complacent about it.
That's true, and there has been a change in the behavior of people in the last 2 years. The world has in fact turned to digital for much, much more than before. How did the study adapt to these changing times, Ms. Mohanty?
Absolutely. We started IPQ in 2019 with face-to-face methodology, but somewhere along the journey, we realized that future is digital, and we wanted to capture the behavior of digitally savvy consumers. So when the pandemic happened, we actually adapted to digital without hampering the safety and security of our staff and the respondents. And then now we have completely moved online. So we have a hybrid version that we did last year, both face-to-face and online. And now, of course, it's fully online. We have covered something close to 6,000 odd respondents across 25 cities. It's as robust as possible without any impact on the quality of the research. So that's the beauty of IPQ, that we have been able to change with times and remained as relevant at all times. And it gives the same degree of rich and deep insights as when we started from the start.
So, Ms. Mohanty, have you noticed any trends in the IPQ over all these editions?
Yeah, actually, there has been a lot of change. If I compare it with 2020, when we first went online, and I compare it to now, IPQ index itself has increased. It has increased some 5 points. So that itself is great news. And this has happened because actually all the pillars have shown movement. Awareness has increased by something like 3 points because people are more aware of ULIP today. They were already aware of term and savings insurance. Anxiety levels are a little lower now than they were during COVID times. So security has also gone up from 51 to 56. And ownership, while ownership overall remains stable, repertoire ownership has gone up. They own different types of products now. So market linked and savings both form a part of the repertoire. So that also has changed. So in that sense, all the pillars of IPQ have improved, resulting in an increase in the IPQ score, which is a great step towards financial literacy and financial consciousness.
Mr. Tripathi, as Soumya mentioned, that awareness levels are increasing, but the ownership has been at par over the years. Do you think we are now plateauing in terms of people buying insurance?
So basically, this is a selected survey. As you know, we have gone to 25 cities. We have surveyed close to about 6,000 people, and they're all digitally savvy people. So I will say on this particular sample, we have seen that the ownership has remained constant over last year, 78%. But if we were to break that down and look at policy density across different types of products, broadly speaking, three big products, term plans, savings plan, and investment plans, I have observed that there has been an increase of about 3 to 4%, which means while at a summary level, the level of ownership remains the same, but people who own are buying more. And we also observed that when we asked the question of people saying, what do you look for when you buy life insurance? The maximum increase actually has come in the sum assured part, which means people are trying to buy more and more coverage as against focusing on premium. People are buying more and more riders. So the entire concept of what I am covered for is taking prominence while the ownership remains constant. So those are really steps in the right direction. So I wouldn't quite say that ownership is fixed. I think ownership is increasing via density.
So I want to bring in Mr. Boman Irani here, and Mr. Irani, Mr. Tripathi mentioned about managing uncertainties in these times. Now, if there's anyone who knows about change and uncertainty, it would be you, because of course you went from being a professional to an actor and then an entrepreneur with Irani Movie Tone. So when did you start covering for future financial risks? What did you proactively do to achieve financial security?
So you're right. I've been a little bit of a risk taker as far as my career is concerned. I was a waiter for a bit. Then I became a shopkeeper for 14 years, took to photography at the age of 35. People said, 35 and kids, you're going to be a shopkeeper? I said, yeah, why not? Started, did photography for 14 years. At 44, I became a film actor. Now at the age of 62, I'm going to direct my first movie. I'm going to debut as a director at the age of 62. So change is important. To me, the one thing in all these changes that has remained constant is family. And that's the question I keep asking myself. You can do what you want. You can find so much joy in your career, in the new discoveries of talent and vocations. But the thing that will remain constant will always be your responsibility. So about 12, 15 years ago, a friend of mine, a family friend, was handling all his finances and what have you. And that person kind of diddled him of everything. And he was in a state of shock. And so much so that, he had no cover, he had no risk, he had no savings. In fact, he was down to zero. He was in the dark night of the soul of his life. And he was finished. And he used to call me up the wee hours of the morning. And he used to say, my head is bouncing on the pillow. I think I have too much blood pressure. I said, you have too much stress. He said, yeah, I know that, Einstein. I understand that. And then I said, you need to, take care of your risk and start having a savings plan. And I introduced him to someone who had introduced that gentleman to me, but I was not taking too much cognizance of that. And that guy put him onto a plan, a savings plan and a risk plan. And believe it or not, the day that he did his tests, thankfully his blood pressure held up for him. The day that he did his tests, the very next day, and the day that the risk plan was taken care of, he was fine. He was absolutely fine. Now, I took a lead from that guy. I said, if he's taken care of himself and I need to have a certain amount of responsibility to my family, I need to do this. And I got him to advise me that I'm helping him out. I should be helping myself also. So immediately, that gentleman took care of me, mentored me, advised me beautifully, and just put my mind at peace. And that was it. And since then, in many ways, for some strange reason, my career started doing even better. Why? Because I was not stressed.
Mr. Singh, if you could come in, we just heard Mr. Irani share his experience that underlines the point about how important it is for people to understand the nuances of financial planning before taking a decision. As a digital platform with a variety of life insurance products, you help people purchase the right product for themselves and are also a key source of information. How have you seen consumer behavior changing on your platform over the last 2 years?
Yeah, so Sonia, the last 2 years, of course, have been dramatically different from the time before that. And one of the major things with insurance is that all of us know that insurance is good for us and we should have insurance. But many times we procrastinate and we feel that we don't need it. I will not be affected. Others will be affected. So there is this element of inertia which is there. And what we've seen is that when there is an event that happens where something around you, typically in your friends or family, that's when you start, really focusing on insurance. And COVID in that sense has been the mother of all wake-up calls. And, suddenly we've seen a heightened awareness for insurance. A lot more people are coming to our platform searching for protection. As Prashant mentioned, people are concerned not only about the premium that they are paying, but about the sum assured, that how much protection are they getting. You can see all these trends in quantitative terms as well. I think in the recent IRDA report, the life insurance penetration has gone up by 12%. If you look at the number of Google searches that are happening, they are at an all-time high for term insurance. And I think this is a welcome step that people are finally focused on protecting themselves, even though it's come, because of a very large pandemic.
Absolutely. And in fact, the study, Ms. Mohanty, also indicates that individuals are buying multiple types of life insurance to protect different milestones in life. Does that indicate some change in the way Indians are spending and saving? Does the data reveal anything about how people's patterns have changed pre and post-COVID?
Yeah, actually, in a sense, it's like a cycle. So what happened during COVID is people were a lot more worried about the here and now. So what we saw last year, they were worried about job security, increasing medical cost. But now we are seeing somewhat of a back to normalcy. There's a shift in attitude. We are talking again about long-term financial planning, again about children's education, marriage, planning for their retirement. In fact, retirement is once again top 3 saving objectives, which was not the case earlier. Similarly, 70% are more proactive about financial planning and believe in saving rather than spending. And tier two has actually been a ray of hope with awareness and ownership, both that have increased. And maybe it's the great work done by IRDAI and insurers like Max Life on spreading awareness about life insurance, and that is yielding result today. As long as awareness is rising, ownership will rise.
Well, we'll take a quick break now, but lots more with our guests when we return.
कभी आप अपनी फैमिली के लिए पार्टनर हैं, कभी बेस्ट फ्रेंड, तो कभी हौसले वाली बात है। सोचे तो आप खुद से कहीं ज्यादा अपनी फैमिली के लिए एक भरोसे का साथ है।
और कैसे भी समय में आपके भरोसे के साथ है मैक्स लाइफ इंश्योरेंस का 99.35% क्लेम्स पेड रेशियो, इंडिया के भरोसे का नंबर, मैक्स लाइफ इंश्योरेंस।
Hello and welcome back to our special show. Mr. Tripathi, this pandemic has been a catalyst for many of us in different ways, as consumers, as organizations, where safety has emerged as a key value. Do you believe it has made an everlasting impact in the Indian mindset?
Absolutely, I think so. safety again is linked to anxiousness or, feeling of underprotection. And before coronavirus happened, we used to go and ask people, what are you most concerned about? What is your anxiety? People will talk about their children. People will talk about their daughter's wedding, their retirement, being hospitalized, something impacting me, etc. was not a top fear. But when COVID happened, I think people did start to talk about what will happen if I would contract COVID, what will happen if I land up in the hospital, what will happen to my near and dear ones if I die out of COVID. So really, the entire pattern of anxiety changed. And with that, the insecurity or security got impacted. We did notice that people started to feel very, very insecure. I must say that as Corona is going back, some bit of that old thinking is coming back again, which means the pattern of thinking about children education or thinking about their retirement is becoming more important than how they were in last 2 years. But I must say, at the same time, impact on self, wellness, well-being, hospitalization, etc. has come at the fore of all the discussions, when we talk to our consumers. So really, the sense of insecurity with respect to what will my future be and what will be the future of my loved ones in the context of what happened in the last 2 years has become far more important.
Right. And Mr. Irani, how did the pandemic change the way you approached your financial planning? Did it make you reevaluate the kind of financial protection you had for yourself and your family?
I did not re-evaluate it in a big way, but there was reaffirmation, if that means anything. So during the pandemic, the first thing I did was call up this gentleman who was helping me and advising me and asking him, are we on the right track? Now the pandemic reminded me to do that. Should we up it? Should we reevaluate it, as you asked me? And we may have, but it was not necessary because I think my pandemic, along with my friend, happened 10, 12 years ago. In that way, because I'm that much older and these incidents do take place in your life. Everybody gets a wrecking ball, so to speak, moment in your life. And that was a wrecking ball moment for my friend. And I'm looking at myself and saying, I have to reevaluate myself. But that had happened. However, what happened was, in the pandemic, I am an extremely positive person. I believe that everything will work out. How long will the pandemic last? We don't know. So we think in a positive, optimistic way. 6 months, 8 months, 1 year, 1.5 years. Yeah. Will something happen to me? Nothing will happen as long as we are safe and as long as we're wearing a mask. And I don't know how many times I washed my hands, and I don't know how many times I wore 2 masks, and I didn't leave the room and waved out to people from 16 miles away. All that you can handle. However, the happy, positive person that I am would get scared sometimes. Not sometimes, almost every night. And this I'm trying to sort of impress upon people who may have been more scared than I, or who were not scared at all and say, nah, this is just a flu and, nothing's going to happen. But there were nights, Sonia, when I would put my head on the pillow and say, what if I wake up in the morning or don't wake up in the morning? And that was happening to a lot of people. What if I wake up in the morning and I do have the dreaded C disease? And, I don't know what it's like and what it's going to be like. And I would call up that friend of mine and ask him, am I covered? Am I? So that reaffirmation is something that I'm talking about.
Okay, and Mr. Singh, with the technology becoming all pervasive in our lives, how do you envisage it playing a role in increasing life insurance awareness and thereby ownership in the countries, especially in smaller towns where protection levels are low?
So, Sonia, I think if you think of it, over the last 2-3 years, suddenly, all Indians have got access to broadband and to have, access to the internet. So of the 50-60 crore Indians who have access to the internet, almost 3/4 of them actually now live in smaller cities. So in a way, while there has been a lot of discussion about inequality and things have changed on the economic front, digitization has been the great leveler where access to products and services is now available across the country. You are able to see and get the best products that are out there. And I think life insurance is no different. We have seen a lot of increase in inquiries, a lot of increase in our customer base over the last 2 years from the smaller cities. And I think this will continue. The industry has also responded. I think some products that have come up, like Saral Jeevan Bima, which is a standard term insurance product, the product that we've recently launched with Max Life for housewives, where for the first time, a housewife can get covered irrespective of whether her husband is covered or not. So these are opening up new segments, new opportunities. And I think because digitization has happened so much, people are, even in smaller cities, are able to take advantage. The final thing I'd say which has changed is that, especially like for us, is that we are now talking in different languages. So to accommodate the the new types of people who are coming, we are able to speak in the language that they prefer. And I think that further helps in increasing the awareness as well as penetration of life insurance.
That's great. And Mr. Irani, we know, of course, that India is a young country with an average age of just 28.4 years. As a father of two young boys or two young men, what is your advice to your children or young millennials like them for starting financial planning early in life?
I can tell youngsters that I think I mentioned it yesterday. Jab taze ho, haan. So you know what I have to say? You all are young. And I'm no expert on this, but when you're young, your premiums will also be less. So when you're young, don't say, no, abhi nahi, when I'm in my 60s, I'll take care. No, jab taze ho, you're all taza. When you're taze ho, life insurance le lo. And then you're free, not to worry about, I need to buy a car, I need to do this, I need to do that. After your security, do what the hell you want. And when you are free mentally, your career, your work, your creativity, your concentration will be sublime. Because this is not thinking about that. Take it, put it aside. That's my advice. Guys, life's too short, whether you live up to 90 or 110, and life is too short if you go when you're 40, and that's really, really sad and criminal to let that happen.
So, Mr. Tripathi, where do you see India protection quotient moving over the next few years? Do you think there is scope for a greater feeling of protection amongst more Indians?
Absolutely, Sonia. But we are talking about 1.4 billion people. We are talking about a large number of cities, etc. So we have seen improvement in India protection quotient scores over the last four versions. It is steadily going up. But at the same time, we must remember that there is a large set of people who need to feel protected. And as we expand our base on how many people we are covering through this survey, we will find that there will be progress, but it will be slower. There are two things that we need to just watch out for. A, we shouldn't get complacent about it. So we need to have a focus on awareness, telling more and more people the value of life insurance. We shouldn't always depend on coronavirus to come and educate people. So there is a broader responsibility on us, and surveys like these actually have the intent to create more awareness about protection and life insurance. We need to make sure that we are reaching out to new segments, as sir mentioned. We must reach out to all the segments, not just in large cities, but also in small cities, because that's the level of penetration which Indians need. We also have to make sure that innovative product design, especially focused around giving more and more coverage and sum assured, is available to people, so that the sense of being protected could be increased. So overall, I'll say moving in the right direction. I see this improve, but as I said earlier, the score is only 50. We are talking about a smaller base, so we must continue to make progress, because as they say, Delhi abhi dur hai.
Well, those are great lines to end this episode with, and thank you so much to all my guests for joining us on this special show. Thank you.